Hello, Gold Derby. I'm Daniel Montgomery, editor with Gold Derby, and this is Charlie Bright, who is one of our contributors at Gold Derby. But more than that, he is also our predictions contest winner for the 58th annual Grammy Awards. We were predicting 30 categories in our prediction center out of upwards of 70 or 80 categories that they have in total, and he predicted 90%. He only missed 3 categories. And of course, we will only discuss those 3 categories because I don't want to discuss anything he got right. So, but first of all, let's start with. I mean, yeah, it is a shorter list, so let us start with what you missed. You missed 2 in the general field, so you missed Song of the Year. You were predicting Blank Space, Taylor Swift over Ed Sheeran's Thinking Out Loud, and that's the same one you missed for Pop Solo Performance. You were also picking Swift over Ed Sheeran there. So tell us about what you're thinking and what went wrong there that didn't go wrong anywhere else almost.
Well, kind of like how Gold Derby, at least what our odds were projecting based on our prediction center, I kind of felt that there was going to be a Taylor Swift sweep, something around like 4 or 5, and excuse me. And so I just thought that that's how it would pan out, and that part of that would be album of the year, obviously, which I didn't think for a long time would happen. I only switched to it maybe about 2 weeks ago. I had Kendrick Lamar in there for the longest time, and then I just sort of thought that would be part of the sweep. She would take Song of the Year, and obviously because of that would Pop Solo Performance, because also Pop Solo Performance tends to prefer female vocalists as opposed to male vocalists. So I thought she would have an edge there. That's why I went with her in those 2 categories.
Yeah, I have the same feeling for her in pop vocal. I knew it was going to be close between her and Ed Sheeran, and as soon as she lost pop vocal during the pre-telecast ceremony that was streaming online, I was like, oh no. Because I figured that if I had one wrong, I had both. I did not think that she would lose pop solo unless she was also going to lose Song of the Year. And I also thought she was going to lose Album of the Year. I mean, I thought I had Alabama Shakes in there. Part of that was me listening to our forum posters who were drawing actually, which is still pretty persuasive, link between Best Engineered Album and Album of the Year, which often, if you get that Engineered Album nomination, then that's a little hint that you might be on your way to an Album of the Year victory. It happened to Beck last year, and also the fact that
and Daft Punk 2 years ago as well.
And also the fact that the Alabama Shakes producer on that album was nominated for Producer of the Year, and that's all he produced. So I thought they love this group, they love this album, and I just thought Alabama Shakes is going to sweep, and I was almost right. They won 3 out of their 4. All they missed was Album of the Year. I mean, it seems so odd that Taylor Swift would win Album of the Year twice. It still does to me. I had her ranked 3rd. I thought Kendrick Lamar even before Taylor Swift.
Well, I had Kendrick Lamar in for the longest time, and I thought he was going to, because especially right after those nominations, the fact that he got 11 nominations and the nearest one was Taylor Swift of the Weeknd with only 7. When I first saw that, I was like, I knew that he was going to do well, but when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is real evidence that, and the Song of the Year nomination for All Right, this is, he has an IOU from 2 years ago, after he was nominated for so many and didn't win any of them. And so it just made sense on so many levels. And plus, I think he's just a phenomenal artist. So there's my personal bias in there as well. And I didn't, and so I thought to myself about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I thought to myself, Taylor Swift probably is going to win this. 1989 was a phenomenal success, had stellar reviews. There's no reason why it shouldn't win. So that's why I went. But you are right. The idea that not only does she have 2 Album of the Year trophies, she has 2, and she's only 25, 26.
26, yeah.
I'm turning 30 this year, and this makes me hate myself so much. Where's my Grammy?
I do think it's a little too much too soon. I mean, it's not even like winning a second Oscar. Actors win second Oscars way more often than artists win multiple Album of the Year awards for their own albums. And of course, this is the first time a woman has ever done it. And she was the youngest woman to win Album of the Year when she won for Fearless at age 20, 6 years ago. And she won it twice at age 26. It just feels like, you know, a little too much too soon. And I thought that's what the voters would recognize or think that too. But the other disappointing thing to me about that in terms of the winners, like, you know, with Kendrick Lamar, it was such an opportunity, you know, to say, you know, this, you know, especially in the year of Oscars so white and all that, you know, to be that standout that's, you know, because the music industry in general is a lot more diverse, is a lot more open to women, certainly also, but also to people of color than you know, TV and film often are. And yet in that general field, it always seems to be, you know, adult contemporary, radio friendly, pop, rock kind of acts that get it. Often white performers. So it's a little disappointing that, you know, I mean, Kendrick Lamar is going to win 30 Grammys in the next 10 years, but none of them may be in the general field, which is kind of disappointing.
It is, but I think one thing that he has going for him now is that he does have an even bigger IOU at this point. One of the things I noticed about this year with this year's nominations with Kendrick Lamar is that since Metacritic has been doing their averages of reviews, they've been doing it now for, let's see, they've encompassed the past 15 Grammy Awards. Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly had the highest score ever nominated for Album of the Year, 96 on Metacritic. That is stunning. And I think we saw it also with the performances last night. You know, I kept on saying, I had to defend this to all my friends who are all Taylor Swift fans. Gonzi, Jacob, you know who you are. You know, they adore Taylor Swift, and I always pretend to be spiteful towards her, even though I really don't have anything against her. I think she's a magnificent performer. But, you know, she made a great album. Kendrick Lamar made a masterpiece. And, you know, I think this could help him in an Album of the Year contest in the future. Lord knows that, you know, Outkast, you know, by the time they got nominated for Speaker Box, The Love Below, that was the narrative. Other than the fact that it was a great album, people were saying it is time. It is time for a rap act to win specifically Album of the Year. And also, to your point, and I know I'm probably rambling at this point, but another thing, they do.
You got 90%. That's rambling rights.
All right. I'm going to make a note of that then. One of the other things is that even when they are presented with a plethora of opportunities to go with an R&B or rap or, dare I say, urban act in the general field, if there is that one, you know, white or sort of, you know, adult contemporary top 40 type, they will go with it. Remember in 2003, you had Lose Yourself, Hey Ya, Where Is the Love, and Dangerously in Love nominated for Record of the Year, and then with Clocks by Coldplay. And then in 2010, you had Empire State of Mind, Nothing on You, CeeLo's Forget You, and I can't remember, Love the Way You Lie for Record of the Year. And they went with Need You Now by Lady Antebellum. You know, so many times they will, even when you have that plethora of opportunities and you have certain, you know, records or recordings that are so iconic of the year in music, like Empire State of Mind was, or Hey Ya, or Lose Yourself, which I thought was going to win that year, they will still just go with it. And it I think is kind of devastating sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and we also have to hold the Recording Academy's feet to the fire a little bit on the fact that the old conservative out-of-touch geezers at the Motion Picture Academy have picked 2 rap songs as best song.
3?
What was the third?
Lose Yourself, Hard Out Here for a Pimp, and Glory.
Oh, Glory. I almost forgot about the most recent one, which also won a Grammy tonight, or last night. Yeah, so 3 and 0 have won Song of the Year, 0 have won Record of the Year at the Grammys, which is, guys, come on.
Yeah.
With the good news, another good thing about Kendrick Lamar, you say him having a Grammy IOU now, which he does, is what separates him from another person who has that IOU, Kanye West, is that Kendrick Lamar is Kanye West but likable.
Yeah, and one of the things that I noticed right after, first of all, I will say it was infectious watching Taylor Swift, as it has been for the past several Grammy years, watching her reaction to everything, and specifically when Ed won Song of the Year, when she just got up and was cheering for him, I was like, that's sweet. That's sweet. I understand why people are willing to shower you with praise. And then, Kendrick Lamar was one of the first people, they hugged each other on the way up because, of course, he helped her on the album. Did Kendrick Lamar get a trophy? Is he considered a featured artist on that album?
I don't think he was. I'd have to go back and check, but I don't believe so.
Okay, but I just thought yes, he's very young, but he's also very gracious. He's very gracious in losing, something that Kanye West isn't, which is something I kind of like about him because he makes things interesting, but still, and I would bet we're going to see him win in the general field before Kanye West.
Oh, we definitely will. I think they're almost done with Kanye, except maybe in the rap categories here and there.
Oh my God! Did you see the one? Did you watch the pre-tell ceremony? Okay, when the category for best rap song came up, and they had that one, the one with the night. I was counting them as they were.
It was 14, I think.
It was 19.
19. Oh, I'm sorry. I counted it at one point, but that was Kanye West's All Day. The interesting thing was that Kendrick Lamar was among them, as was Paul McCartney, possibly Taylor Swift. I don't remember all of them. Like, it could be everyone making music in the last year or so.
That was that Kendrick Lamar went by Kendrick Lamar in that, and not his actual name, which he's credited on his actual songs.
But it's interesting. I think that list of credits was long. It must have been longer than the actual song. They maybe had one word apiece on it.
It was just like, as I read each one, I'm just like, oh my God, they're really doing this. This is like a bit, in like a comedy show that's really funny at first, and then it's like, okay, we get it. But then for some reason, like right at the end, it just starts being funny again.
Well, we talk about the diversity or the lack thereof in some of these winners, so it is a little bit refreshing then when you see Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson is a white artist, but Bruno Mars is not. And this song, I feel like, has that quality of a Hey Ya, of an Empire State of Mind. It was everywhere. It's the one that's going to be remembered in 5 years and 10 years. It has a retro feel, so it's still in the comfortable wheelhouse of the Academy, but it really did feel like the record of the year. So it's a little bit refreshing that they went with that one. They could have gone to Thinking Out Loud with that one too, and it would have been fine, but it wouldn't have been the record of the year, in my opinion.
No, I think this is one of the best. I think actually the record of the year win for Uptown Funk is one of the best decisions the Grammys have made in the past several years. Not saying I hate every one of their decisions, but I do think like I thought the Daft Punk wins were fantastic and great groundbreaking win for them. And this, I think, is on that level. It was I remember when the song came out, it was so different. And it's just infectious. And I didn't ever get tired of hearing it because I don't listen to radio. I don't have a car, so I don't have like the radio on. All my friends, like they had it on, and so they were tired of it. But I heard it in the moderate amount where I still enjoy hearing the song. So I just thought it was awesome, and that win I thought was fantastic. So that made me very happy.
Yeah, that's a song that I am absolutely sick of now, but I know in a couple years, once it's had time to cool off, it will enter sort of the echelon of classic songs of the last several decades. The only thing that really annoyed me about it was that one line, don't believe me, just watch. I feel like it was written to sell to every commercial and every company that wanted to sell something on television for an entire year. So like if you heard nothing else of Uptown Funk in 2015, you heard don't believe me, just watch everywhere. I heard PLC on their reality shows, like Say Yes to the Dress or something. Everywhere. but give it a year to cool off. It will become the classic that you're fond of hearing again every once in a while, even if you're sick of it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, there's you got to give songs that cooling off period, or else, Smooth was like that. Smooth was friggin' everywhere when it came out. Of course, by the time it won all the Grammys, it's like, oh, yay, wonderful. Now enough already. But, now it's like, whenever you're in a car on a trip or something, Smooth comes on the radio, you turn that shit up.
Moving on to another category we both actually got wrong, and it's something we should have seen coming, but, it was Best New Artist. You and I were both picking Sam Hunt. I believe our consensus of the website was James Bay, who had 2 other nominations in the rock field, and then ended up going to Meghan Trainor, which should have been, in hindsight, it was obvious, and yet not. I mean, she had no other nominations, but she was competing in the pop field, which was arguably more difficult to get into this year than rock or country was. But she's a solo female artist. This category loves solo female artists, except for the last 5 years. It's been a sausage party for the last 4 years in a row. She's the first female winner since Esperanza Spalding in 2011, which was also the last time that none of the Best New Artists had a general field nomination. So it's another parallel there. So what did you think about the Meghan Trainor win? What was your reaction to it in terms of whether she deserved it and in terms of whether you really should have predicted it?
I should have predicted it. It's just, sometimes the Best New Artist category is just one of the craziest categories at the Grammys. Starland vocal band. That's all I'll say. But I was predicting Sam Hunt mainly because I singled him out because I thought, okay, he's country, and country. This is the one area in the general field that you can actually rely on country to do fairly well. You've had winners like the Zac Brown Band and I'm blanking, Carrie Underwood, and even you may not consider completely country, but Shelby Lynn has a bit of that feel to her as well. And so it felt like that would be a reasonable place, and I didn't feel like there was any like huge momentum going towards any of the nominees. Honestly, when I first read the nominees, I hadn't heard of any of them except for Meghan Trainor, and I think that probably should have been my tipping point where I went, oh yeah, it'll probably go to her. Considering she was up for Record and Song of the Year last year, that should have been the obvious pull there.
Yeah, I agree. In hindsight, the Record and Song of the Year nominations the previous year, I don't know why I didn't consider them. Because if I thought it was difficult to get into the pop field this year, it would have been much harder to get into Record and Song last year, especially before her album even came out, which is why she was eligible for New Artist this year, is because her album came out in this eligibility period. But why I went with Sam Hunt was because he seemed to have the established success. His album sold incredibly well, and they nominated it for Best Country Album. He won Best New Artist at the American Music Awards, which is a sign of his popularity because it's a fan-voted award, so it showed he had the widespread exposure. He beat The Weeknd at those awards. And Meghan Trainor, I didn't think Meghan Trainor had quite the sort of critical respectability necessarily that Sam Hunt had, which is ultimately why I thought Sam Hunt pretty much has all of that nailed. I sort of have a theory now that I need to go back and research that maybe there was a little bit of slap the stud going on in there. How the Grammys really, really like to reward, young women, beautiful young female artists who come on the scene like Mariah Carey, like Carrie Underwood, and not so much younger men, especially younger male solo artists, and especially younger male solo artists who look like that in a tight white T-shirt singing with Carrie Underwood. So I'm going to avoid picking anyone who goes to the gym, obviously.
Well, I was going to say I did notice he was singing. I was too busy staring at him in that white shirt.
I think so was Carrie.
I almost made a really bad pun there, saying I was too busy looking at him in that plain white tee of his. God, I'm sorry about that.
That's a reference to another artist that didn't win Best New Artist. Were they even nominated?
They might have been. I know that was nominated for Song of the Year, but
I'm scrolling through your other predictions because we already went through the only three you got wrong. So I'm looking for, there are some that, everyone got right. Like, we don't even need to really talk about rap. We knew Kendrick Lamar was going to walk through that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking here at, let's see, what's a good one? I know. Oh, here's one we both got right. That was both going against the grain, and I want to brag on this one too, which is why I'm going to bring it up. Visual media compilation. That's my one brag.
That's right. Yeah.
Visual media compilation. It went to, the front runner was Empire, and it ended up going to Glenn Campbell, I'll Be Me. I know why I eventually switched to that a week or two ago, but I want to hear why you predicted that.
Well, that was one. That was when I was trying to, get all my predictions up in there in the first place. I never switched on that one, and if I'm remembering correctly, my thought process was, Empire. The music on that has always been what people talk about, but it hasn't always been in the most positive light. The song that sampled Dire Straits' "Money for Nothing" always comes to mind whenever I think of negative reactions to Empire music. But the Glenn Campbell one, it's the swan song for Campbell. He can no longer perform now. It's very solemn, very sad. And in some of these categories, the Grammys will have a real sentimental factor. They gave in 2004, they gave Best Female Country Vocal Performance to June Carter Cash for recording she did of Keep on the Sunny Side, which, in any other year probably wouldn't have been nominated. But of course, she had just passed away in the previous year. And I think that the combined with the sentimental factor, combined with the with how well received the documentary was, I think is what led me to say, I think that'll probably be the area where they'll go.
Yeah, and I did the math on that one, which is what changed my mind. I was originally predicting Empire just as soon as I put together the categories in the prediction center, and then I predict them right away. I predicted Empire right away because it's the most high profile. It's the TV show phenomenon that's known for its music. And then when I was writing an article about it, this category specifically, I looked at it and I thought, okay, 50 Shades of Grey, that album, for instance, earned 5 Grammy nominations, or 5 or 6, no, 6 Grammy nominations overall, 3 for Earned It, and another 2 for Love Me Like You Do, and this one for Visual Media Compilation. So they liked the music from this album. And then the Glenn Campbell album won Best Country Song for You're Not Gonna Miss Me, or I'm Not Gonna Miss You. I can't remember which the title is. And the band Perry won last year for Country Duo or Group for Gentle on My Mind from this compilation. And Empire, 0 other nominations. No other music from that album got nominated in any other field, in R&B, in traditional R&B. There's so much music from that in rap song. They could have gotten in any number of places and they didn't. So I thought, okay, that in combination with the musical legend factor behind Glenn Campbell is what I thought, okay, it's going to be Glenn Campbell. And I was so relieved in the pre-telecast when they opened that envelope and I got that one right.
That's one of those ones that you never know where they're going to go sometimes. They can go for stuff that has original music. I mean, Zach Braff has a Grammy in this category for the soundtrack to Garden State. Rightfully so, I might add, because that soundtrack is fantastic.
Ava DuVernay almost had a Grammy because she produced the Selma compilation.
Yeah.
It's so interesting who has Grammys. It's like the telecast when they introduced Stephen Colbert, 2-time Grammy winner, which he absolutely is.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter, is now a Grammy winner. Which I think is awesome.
He was, actually. He's a 2-time Grammy winner.
Is he? I thought he had only one. I thought this was his first.
No, this was his second spoken word. He won it. I'm gonna say 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay. All right, but Jimmy Carter has 2. Bill Clinton has 2. Senator Al Franken has 1 at least. Hillary Clinton has 1. President Barack Obama has 2. It's kind of crazy when you go down this list of who has Grammys, and I just think it's also awesome. It's just crazy that Jimmy Carter, among the people he beat, was Patti Smith. I thought that was hilarious in any Grammy category.
In terms, I was predicting Jimmy Carter. I was worried about Patti Smith because I'm like, she's never won a Grammy. She is a music legend. She is a rock
No
and roll
way.
hall of she yeah, and so I'm thinking, I don't care if it's spoken word. If they see her name on a ballot and they know she's never won a Grammy, they're going to vote for her. But I think they probably didn't know because I mean, she absolutely would have won that if people knew. If that were widespread, like, oh, Patti Smith doesn't have a Grammy, give her a Grammy for like recording a telephone answering message. I don't care, just give her a Grammy.
Get
Uh,
it to her.
yeah, so if she records her next audiobook, I just want to recommend to her people, if they're watching this, because why wouldn't they be? Uh, that they really do a full court press on that campaign, letting people know Patti Smith does not have a Grammy.
Yeah, I'll definitely second that one. I mean, yeah, and I got to tell you, as popular as Hamilton is, and as a deserved win as Hamilton got, and it seems, of course, so obvious. I was really worried that Fun Home might win that one. I thought, oh, if it hadn't been a full, like, 7 months since it won the Tony Award, I think it might have stood a better chance. But that was one that was worrying me. Like when that was coming up, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's one. I mean, I didn't do that well in necessarily as many categories as you did, but I was not worried about that one at all. I was watching after that, especially after the performance, because I mean, they knew when they produced the show, when they set it up, they know Hamilton's winning it, so let's do that live performance from New York. And then as I was watching them list the names of, just introduce like the category and the nominees are, and I'm thinking, I'm looking at the screen, I'm going, not Hamilton, not Hamilton, Hamilton, not Hamilton. Grammy goes to, and it was just such a,
What's
like it was almost as close a lock to me as like Kendrick Lamar winning rap album. It was just going to happen. And what's interesting is how many people are included as principal soloists on that album. So people like Jonathan Groff, the actor from Looking, he is a Grammy winner. Renee Elise Goldsberry, who was in that show and who I remember fondly as attorney Evangeline Williamson from One Life to Live. She is now a Grammy winner. She was almost an Emmy winner for One Life to Live, and she might be a Tony winner. So if only she had gotten that Emmy, she'd be almost all the way to an EGOT by now. So it's really great to see a lot of those people winning Grammys.
And for anyone who's interested, Lin-Manuel Miranda, did an awesome job, as he always does, doing an acceptance speech yesterday. But if you want to see him really freestyling, not reading off a paper, if you can go on YouTube and find when he won the Tony for original score for In the Heights, and just started freestyling right on stage, no paper, and it was, I mean, I was watching that and my mouth was hanging open. I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable.
I sort of want to, because what's interesting is that his acceptance speech for Hamilton was almost as good, probably better than a lot of the songwriting nominees at the event, just his acceptance speech. So now I'm actually I want this whole meta thing to happen for the Television Academy, Best Original Song. The nominees are that acceptance speech. Because
Well,
that would be brilliant. And then he'd sing his Emmy speech, but he wouldn't be eligible for an Emmy speech because the Emmy telecast isn't eligible for
I think
Emmys.
he already has an Emmy.
No, he does. Yeah, he's an Oscar away from the EGOT,
Yeah.
and he'll get it. I mean, he wrote the music for the new Star Wars film, for the new Star Wars Cantina. So I have no doubt in my mind that he'll get his name on a song, or one of these musicals that he's written will become a film, and he'll write an extra song and win the obligatory Oscar for that. He's on his way to EGOT, no question.
Yeah. And well, speaking of that, what about your thoughts on the ceremony? What were the standout performances for you?
Well, for me, I always like the performances that don't seem to be trying that hard, or at least the producers that don't seem to be trying that hard, where you can tell, like, take a drink every time LL Cool J says Grammy moment, and you'd be blackout drunk in 45 minutes. They try so hard to make those things special, but those are the least special ones. So when you get something that feels just what the artist is, like Kendrick Lamar just doing Kendrick Lamar. That was extraordinary. And then my other favorite was the BB King tribute, which was just Chris Stapleton, Bonnie Raitt, and Gary Clark Jr. Like, I mean, just perfect together. The perfect, like, it wasn't fancy. It wasn't like, let's get this big star to sing, arbitrarily with this other big star. It was three artists whose sensibilities matched each other so well that if they made an album, I would buy it yesterday. It was so good together. And it doesn't hurt that Bonnie Raitt is one of my all-time favorite artists, and she still sounds as good, if not better, than she ever has before, which is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I had never actually heard Chris Stapleton play. I hadn't listened to any of his music, so this is the first time I was actually hearing him, and he blew me away. I was like, "Oh my God, you are wonderful. Keep doing whatever you are doing. I know you're not doing blues, mainly you're doing country, but just you are awesome. Do whatever you do," because that was, to me, the standout of the evening, along with Kendrick Lamar. I thought Kendrick Lamar, it was one of those where, the huge production value, it worked. So often you see this huge thing and it just doesn't work. Sometimes, like, I remember the first time Pink performed and she performed from the ceiling and everything. That was her performance was great, and the visuals were phenomenal. And then, like, 3 years later, they had her do it again, and I'm just like, does she live in the ceiling of the Staples Center and they just, like, drop her every couple of years for the Grammys? But this was one where it just really worked. One of my other favorite performances was actually one of the more the simplest of the evening, and it was Stevie Wonder and Pentatonix. That little tribute they did for Maurice White, I thought was just perfect. It was they threw in this. It was just, and it sounded great, and you could tell that the remaining members of Earth, Wind and Fire were genuinely touched by it. They thought it was wonderful, and I thought that just really worked. And I hope more people go back and watch that over the years.
Yeah, I like that performance a lot. I usually think less is more. That was one of the few cases where I'm looking at what's happening on the stage and I'm thinking maybe a little more, because it felt like it was staged almost like, in between awards presentations or something. They're just standing there on stage. They're just doing it. I could have gone for a little bit of production there. It would have been nice to see that punched up just a bit.
Yeah, and also the performance by Alabama Shakes, I thought they were magnificent.
Oh my God, Brittany Howard's voice.
Yeah, the first time I ever heard her was actually at the Grammys. It was 3 years ago, and anyone who follows me on Facebook knows I've been doing my Grammy countdown, and I forgot, so I'm still only on number 9 of my 20 favorite Grammy performances. But one of them was the tribute to Levon Helm, and she did a verse from The Wait. And there were only 2 women there. It was her and Mavis Staples. But of course, Mavis always knocks it out of the park. But, oh man, Brittany Howard just blew me away with her voice. And so ever since then, I've just been, eager to see, what will this band do next? And I just loved her, just her on stage being her, with that, with her body and that hair, and just like she is being
mouth. Like when she opens her mouth to sing, it seems to be like, it's just like opening up to the world. It's insane that amount of expressiveness that she gets out of that.
Yeah, and I just love that, and she just completely owns it, and she's awesome for that. So I just love seeing them do what they do, and I thought they were great. They were great.
What did you think of, this is because I was on social media during this ceremony, and Adele, I kept hearing like, oh, it sounds awful, what's going on? Oh, it sounds great, and then I'm like, I didn't hear the actual sound problems. She didn't sound as vocally pristine as she always does, but I thought that's the rawness, that's the emotion of the song. I loved it. So I didn't actually notice the problems. I must be orally not with it.
Well, I noticed like there was a slight mic screw up where the sound like cut out and you could only hear faintly from the piano at one point.
That part I heard, yeah.
Yeah, that was the one part I heard. At one part, I don't want to say she sounded maybe just a little bit off, but other than that, I thought it was a great performance. I wish I had known the song more. I haven't gotten the album yet. I'm like the one person who still doesn't have that album. And okay. So I did see you at the meeting the other day. So but I wish I could have like known the song and like been like going along with it. But I thought she was fantastic. She's great, just like she always is. It's very hard for her to disappoint.
And her on Twitter afterwards was very nice. She sort of admitted to what the sound problem was. Apparently, a mic fell into the piano and was like in amongst the wires or something, which is why it sounded like a little twangy or something. And then she said perfectly, she said, shit happens. And then she said she was going to treat herself to In-N-Out Burger for it. So as a result, so, I mean, yeah, obviously I don't think anyone holds that against her.
Yeah. And honestly, one of the things I do love about Adele is that she's wonderfully blunt about these sort of things. I remember when she won her Golden Globe, for Skyfall, and she had just had her baby a month or two ago, and she's just like, oh yeah, me and my friends were just here, we're getting pissed in the back and just having a good time, and it's just like, I love you.
Speaking of awards winners, there was Lady Gaga, or as she is now, she's on her birth certificate, she's now changed that to Academy Award nominee Lady Gaga. That way, she has been introduced that way everywhere. She is campaigning hard for this Oscar for Till It Happens to You from The Hunting Ground. She gave that tribute to David Bowie, which I liked a lot. I think it didn't need quite as many of Bowie's songs, because it felt like it was bouncing around very much. But ultimately, I really think Lady Gaga, when you think about her persona and when you think about her musicality, she was the only person who could have given that tribute.
No, you're absolutely right about that, and I think that her and Bowie have. They're not on the same level, but they are definitely of the same wavelength in their approach to performing, especially David Bowie from the 70s with Ziggy Stardust and everything. So I think it was appropriate that she did it. I just maybe focus on 2 or 3 songs, and really, because it really felt rushed. That was the problem I had with it. It felt rushed. It was like, okay, we've done this song, we've done this song, we've done this song, and now this one and this one and this one. It felt so rushed, and I would have loved to have seen all those visuals, but just concentrate on 2 or 3 of those songs.
Yeah, I saw someone tweeted, I can't remember exactly who, because my Twitter feed was just like streaming up and down all night. But someone said very astutely said a medley is like changing positions during sex just as it's getting good. And that was so astute. I thought, it's like, yes, because you're just getting into this because Lady Gaga is giving this one performance, and then, oh, nope, no, now she's giving this other one. It's like, oh, nope, and you can't really settle into any one of them. But I wonder, after they made a point of introducing her as Academy Award nominee Lady Gaga, I wonder if The Weeknd was somewhere there giving her the side eye, thinking, I'm an Oscar nominee too, and I didn't have them introduce me that way.
He just grabs a microphone and goes,
excuse me, Academy Award winner Adele didn't introduce herself that way.
I'm surprised she didn't go with the trophy she already has, Golden Globe winner, Lady Gaga.
And Sam Smith is an Oscar nominee too. He wasn't introduced that way.
Yes, he was.
Oh, he was?
He was. I remember them doing that. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He is nominated for that.
It's kind of surprising because when you think about the pop stars nominated for Grammys this year, it's really the only one you think about is Adele, but you kind of or Lady Gaga, but you kind of forget, like, oh yeah, Sam Smith is an Oscar nominee. It's like, oh yeah, The Weeknd is an Oscar nominee, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, I'm gonna be very blunt though. I've listened to the alternative theme to Spectre, the one that was done by Radiohead. And I am a huge Radiohead fan, and I thought that one was far superior. And so I'm just thinking to myself, oh, what could have been? And just thinking of them opening the envelope and going, the Oscar goes to Tom York, Johnny Greenwood. And I'm just like, yay!
Well, I can't remember. I think Tom York was nominated, wasn't he, for I've Seen It All?
No, he was only
one of the writers.
He was the writer. He was a featured vocalist on the soundtrack version, and he was supposed to perform. And yes, this was when I was really in my Radiohead heyday in 2001. Kid A had just come out. He was supposed to perform with her at the Oscars, but wasn't able to make it work with his touring schedule.
Now, one of the things I always watch, I love music. I've loved music since I was a teenager. I don't listen to as much of it or as wide varieties of it as I did when I was just getting into it. So one thing I always take away from the Grammys is how much more music and many more kinds of music I'd like to listen to. Did you have that sense about any artists or any genres that you feel like I should put this in rotation more often?
Definitely, I thought that about Alabama Shakes and Chris Stapleton. I like Kendrick Lamar, and every time he does something on the Grammys now, I just like him more and more. I remember, 2 years ago when he did that thing with Imagine Dragons. That was like, after watching that, my head just basically was boom. I was like, what did I just watch? This is unbelievable. And so I want to put more of that. There are things that I wouldn't put in rotation that I enjoyed seeing though, and having that be a part of the experience. Like, I think metal is a genre that doesn't really get, it has its own category, but I don't really think it gets the proper appreciation it deserves in the realm of rock music in general. And so seeing a tribute to the guy from Motorhead, and I'm blanking on his name, Lemmy. I'm sorry. I'm
blanking too.
Yeah. Seeing that tribute, with Alice Cooper, Joel Perry, and Johnny Depp, and just a bunch of other people on stage, just rocking out and having a great time. That's something I love to see at the Grammy Awards. I love to see when you could get the sense not only that the audience is enjoying it, but that the people on stage are just really in the moment, or just enjoying the hell out of it. That is something that to me is I love seeing. So that was something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I was like, when I heard them introducing like Hollywood vampires, and I'm thinking Alice Cooper and Johnny Depp, I'm thinking, ooh, I was in hate watch mode when that started, but I was like, oh no, I actually like this. I'm really shocked that that actually won me over. I don't know if it needed Johnny Depp, but I mean, he didn't hurt, except for that one point where he was talking, mumbling and something into the microphone. I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, but didn't really need that.
Well, Alice Cooper is someone who knows how to command a stage like that, and he's someone who can do that on an expert level. One other one I wanted to ask you about: what did you think about the Lionel Richie thing that happened there?
It wasn't good. It wasn't like, as far as I wrote in my review of the telecast, that was probably the low light of the night. But as low lights go, there have been far worse in previous years. I don't think it was terrible so much as not great. I thought John Legend was outstanding to start it with, and I thought Lionel Richie was good to close it with. I just think everything in between was a problem.
No, and I'm completely with you on that. Tributes are very, very tricky to do on the Grammys, especially if you're going to amass a group of people together. If you're going to have one person do one tribute or just like one song, and there are two, I think, that stand out to me the most. The first was the tribute they did to Joe Strummer in 2003. And it was Joe Strummer had just passed away a month before, one of the founding members of the Clash, and they did a group of people performing London Calling. It was Bruce Springsteen, Elvis Costello, Dave Grohl, and Steven Van Zandt, and them all just performing London Calling. It was perfect. It was magnificent. And the other one, which is my favorite Grammy performance of all time, was the tribute to funk music they did in 2004. Where you had Earth, Wind and Fire, Outkast, Robert Randolph of the Family Band, and then you close it out with George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. And it's just it was crazy, but oh my God, did it work? It was just awesome. And so it felt like this was just an assortment of people, basically doing, tribute night at a cabaret kind of, where they just do, where they just sing a verse of the song and then move on to the next person. So, it just felt
on the wrong songs. I mean, Demi Lovato, who I think is a really powerful vocalist. She's an amazing voice, but she doesn't quite know how to wield it. I mean, she is sometimes using like a bazooka to kill a fly a lot of times on her. She oversang the hell out of that song, and then Luke Bryan, who just I don't know what like he
Yeah.
did not say, he was just the wrong artist for that tribute. He does not belong on that stage at that moment.
Well, first of all, I don't use anything but a bazooka to kill a fly. First of all, but I mean, second of all, you're absolutely right about Luke Bryan. The one thing that the whole them going into the crowd and getting Lionel Richie should have been a surprise, but Lionel at one point moved his hand up and I saw a microphone in his hand and I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to bring him up at the end. The one thing that should have been like a huge, ooh, surprise. It's like, oh yeah, we see it coming. We see what you're doing there.
You know what would have been almost clever if they did was if they had the singers on stage doing the tribute be just deliberately bad and just like out of key and off and have him in the crowd be like, just like giving shade from the crowd, and then he goes up on stage and says, "Let me show you how it's done." That would have been a Grammy moment.
Oh my God, that would have been fantastic. I'm just imagining this, and it would have to be directed by Christopher Guest or something like that. That's the only way that could work.
Yeah. So, what are you thinking about for next year? It's still early yet, but even actually not really. We're about 5 or 6 months into the eligibility period, which is from the beginning of October till the end of September of this year. So, there are already two that I'm thinking are Album of the Year contenders. There's Adele for 25. I don't think they'll give it to her twice, but then I didn't think they'd give it to Taylor Swift twice so fast, so I wouldn't rule that out. And David Bowie. He's another one who has not been rewarded that much at the Grammys. His last album that he was released right before his death, huge critical acclaim. It's right during the eligibility period. It might be a little too early. It might fade in terms of the buzz by the time the Grammys roll around, but I feel like especially if it's a light year where there's not a lot of big, strong contenders, I could see David Bowie getting in there.
Absolutely. I thought the last album he produced, I can't remember what the title of the last album was that came out, I think was 3 or 4 years ago. I thought that was going to get nominated for Album of the Year. So I would not be surprised at all to see David Bowie in there. Of course, Adele's going to be a front runner for album and record and song of the year again. I'd say she probably is. I'd say she's actually probably more secure to win record and song of the year than album of the year. But I wouldn't put it past her because I think she is such a musical force to be reckoned with. Whereas Taylor Swift is more of a packaged deal. If you understand what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to denigrate Taylor Swift. I know I will get tons of hate for that if I do, but it's a much more packaged. She's a much more packaged artist, whereas Adele is just more her own thing, and it's that voice. And so I can imagine that reaching another Album of the Year trophy. Another one I would keep an eye out for, just because they are perennial favorites, is Radiohead. I believe they might be coming out with an album this year. If it comes out before the October deadline, they could definitely be big players in there. I mean, they've been, I think every album that they've done since OK Computer has been nominated for the Alternative Music Album Grammy. They've won 3 of those, and the same 3 albums, OK Computer, Kid A, and In Rainbows, have been nominated for Album of the Year. I think they're definitely someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's so funny. I almost wish that if they were going to make history and give a female artist 2 Album of the Year titles, I almost wish they would have waited for Adele, because it feels like, I mean, not that Taylor Swift isn't talented, she's really, really fantastic, but just in terms of the level of broad popularity and cultural impact that Adele has had just in the last few years. Like, she is that kind of institution that's like, if someone's going to win twice in that short period of time, it's Adele. And so it'll almost feel redundant if she wins again. And like, oh, it's, almost like another repeat, because, again, it'll be another adult contemporary artist. It will be another radio-friendly, top 40 pop white artists, winning all the awards, which will be, again, a little disappointing depending on what the options are. We'll see if Kendrick Lamar drops another album the next few months. Probably not, but maybe in a couple of years. But yeah, I mean, I think Adele could, if Taylor Swift hadn't won, I'd be ruling Adele almost out. Like, not in terms of nomination, I wouldn't think she'd win again. But the album sales and the popularity and the critical admiration, it's just all there for Adele.
The other one I just forgot. I think Macklemore and Ryan Lewis could make another. Downtown could definitely make an appearance in Record and Song of the Year. They got nominated for Song of the Year for Same Love 2 years ago. And has their new album been released yet, or it's about to be released, right?
I'm not sure. I think it's either soon to come or has recently.
Yeah, so I think that'll probably be a player for Album of the Year as well.
I don't actually think so, personally. I feel like the backlash, especially after Kendrick Lamar beating Kendrick Lamar in the rap field over and over and over again, and then winning Best New Artist, and then apologizing in a tweet. I just feel like the backlash against them, the bloom is maybe off the rose. They might get a couple nominations, but I'm not sure they'll get widespread love.
I think the at least from what I feel, and because I'm here in Falls Church, Virginia, I'm not as privy to the insights of the music industry, but and at least from what I could tell from friends and reactions to certain things, I think that there was a backlash there, definitely, in those immediate couple of months afterwards. But things sort of tempered down, and then with the new single coming out, I think they renewed some goodwill, considering they kind of tempered down their stuff, and then wait a while, and now they're coming out with something new, and I think that that's renewed the goodwill.
Well, we've covered the Grammys past, present, and future with this slugfest. It's been a pleasure. I almost kind of want to do this for another couple of hours, but I feel like YouTube and whoever's watching and listening will be sick of us by now. So with that, I will say once again, congratulations. Would you like to give some kind of acceptance speech for winning our predictions contest before we sign off?
Oh God. Well, first gotta thank my savior, Chris Pratt, because without him, nothing is possible. He is why I wake up in the morning and why I don't get out of bed sometimes in the morning, but that's beside the point. I just want to thank Gold Derby for giving me this platform. It's all because of Gold Derby, and it's all because of the fans. It's because of the fans. It is because of you that I am able to be so great. Thank
you. Okay, and with that, if anyone has any video editing skills, I would like people to creatively figure out what exactly the shape of that award you're pantomiming actually.
I was trying to do the Grammy.
Oh, it's a little
the Grammy.
It looked like you were doing that.
Well, no, that's what this is, because it has the bass and it has the thing up there. That's what I was trying to do.
People will edit something else entirely in there, I promise.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Well, with that, internet, the ball is in your court. Thank you very much for listening to us ramble on for almost an hour now. Thank you very much, and have a good night.